we have something special for our fans. We're going to go over at first and give you guys our reactions to some of these very interesting trade proposals that we found online. So keep in mind, guys, these are just trade proposals. These are not actually from any front offices. These are not reported as actually happening. These are just some articles that have been written by Bleacher Report, and we thought we would kind of look at them.
Yeah, for sure. And there, as it's saying right here, it's one new trade idea for every NBA team. And although there's a lot of interesting takes that Bleacher Report does, we kind of wanted to focus and highlight on 5 of the ones that we found to be very interesting. And starting us off, we can go into one that Doc J was not a big fan of. Let's see if we can find it in here.
Yes, please.
And that would be the Miami Heat trade scenario. Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Absolutely. So this trade scenario has Lauri Markkanen going to the Miami Heat, and the Utah Jazz will receive Jaime Jaquez Jr., Duncan Robinson, a 2024 first-round pick, top 1 protection, 2028 first-round, top 3 protection, and Miami must renegotiate protections on the 2025 obligation to OKC, so I assume that the Utah Jazz would also get that. Okay. This is, it's so delusional, JD, that it's laughable to me. So this is obviously written by a Miami Heat fan. I get it. And as fanatics, we always do this. We think that we can somehow fleece another team and pay pennies on the dollar for someone who has real talent and real skill. And this is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I don't understand how anyone could even think that this isn't delusional. And what this makes me think is the guy who wrote this probably doesn't watch basketball too much, but I don't know. But look, Lauri Markkanen had an explosive year, came out 49%, 39%, and 87 off of all of his shooting stats. He averaged more than 25 points per game. He was the most improved player of the year, first-time All-Star. He showed what he can really do. He's 26 years old. He's only getting better. I just don't understand how this makes any sense for the Utah Jazz. This is great for the Heat. Yeah, of course. But why would the Jazz do this? Where's the logic here? The Jazz are in a rebuild for sure. But when they had Lauri Markkanen come out and be this diamond in the rough, they also reported that he was just completely untouchable. And I can understand why. I think he's just going to get better and better. You believe that as well. We've actually talked about that. How next year we project him to put up at least 28 and 10. So I just don't understand how you can believe that this is going to be something the Utah Jazz are going to jump on. And it just kind of shows you that, big market teams, they're very passionate fan bases. Sometimes they can be a little delusional. JD, what do you think?
I mean, I think Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated, they tend to have a little too much fun with some of these trade scenarios. I mean, a lot of times they'll say, hey, look at this trade scenario, blockbuster trade for the New York Knicks or for the LA Lakers. It's just, right. I think it's a little clickbaity. I mean, if we don't recall, not too long ago, Trae Young was attending a Lakers game, and then ESPN hopped on it, Bleacher Report hopped on it, just saying, hey, is Trae Young going to the Lakers? He's attending the games. It's just like, come on. I mean, there's no real proof there. The guy's just likes to go to games, and it's not only that, it's the playoffs. So it's like, why not attend those games? I mean, we saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander attend one of those games, but nobody's thinking he's leaving OKC to go to LA. So, I mean, again, yes, the trade scenario is a little silly. I definitely wouldn't put any betting money on this one at all. I think that it's not good at all. I think Lauri Markkanen, obviously, he's still like 25, 26, developing in his prime. I still think that he hasn't attained his ceiling yet. And
I agree.
We've talked about this a little bit on the podcast.
Ad nauseum, absolutely.
And for the Utah Jazz to receive Jaime Jaquez, Duncan Robinson, and a few first round picks, it's just like, it's not worth it at all. I think it would be an absolute steal for the Heat, and it would leave Utah Jazz fans as well as the organization scratching their head as to why they would do this. In fact, I like Jaime Jaquez, I really do, but I think he's just been overrated right now. I mean, yes, he's a first round pick. He scored one 20-point game, but if I recall, he's had a few other games and he hasn't really shined too much in those. I just think he kind of got blown out of proportion a little bit. Although he could have a good career, I don't think that this trade at all really works for the Utah Jazz.
No, it doesn't make any sense. It actually takes the fun out of looking at trade proposals because it's just so left field and so Miami biased. It's ridiculous. Like, really, you guys aren't even going to give us Tyler Hero in this one? You know what I mean? We just get Duncan Robinson and Jaime Jaquez. Yeah, we'd love to do that. It's absolutely absurd. When I look through these trade proposals, I like to find ones that could potentially hold some substance for both sides. You know, a negotiation normally is going to take place that when it's successful, normally both sides walk away very unsatisfied because you have to negotiate, you know? So this is just a highway robbery. I think it's even borderline disrespectful to Danny Ainge. There's just no way this one gets done ever. Not in any universe. Sorry, Miami. That one's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. But we do have some interesting ones on here. Although, you know, that Miami Heat one, I'd probably give that trade scenario a D because I don't think it's even likely, even close to being likely.
That's
but
an F, man. That one's
for
an F minus.
For Boston, I think Bleacher Report had a really fun one with the Boston Celtics.
Yes, I agree.
Pull that up here.
Let's look into that one.
So right here, for the Boston Celtics trade scenario, we have noticed that there has been a lot of buzz with Damian Lillard. And in this trade scenario, they have the Boston Celtics receiving Damian Lillard and Portland receiving Malcolm Brogdon, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, Peyton Pritchard, who I like, Robert Williams III, who seems pretty good when he is healthy, Golden State's 2024 first round, 2025 first round, 2027 first round, and these are the Celtics', and the 2029 first round. And these are all protected to a degree except the 2025 and the 2027. I mean, we talked a little about this before the pod. Doc J mentioned that, you know, this is the type of package that Portland Trailblazers are looking for. You know, Damian Lillard is a superstar talent. He had the best year of his career, basically, with his points per game and things like that. I think that, you know, this could add a little bit of a mix that maybe both of them might want to do. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, so, excuse me, this is exactly what their front office is looking for in terms of a package. Last I heard, they're looking for draft capital. They want some young players and some young talent that they can continue to cultivate. And this is kind of perfect, honestly. It gives them some flexibility with some trade assets. It gives them the draft capital they were looking for. They wanted at least 4 first-round draft picks. And if you're a Boston fan, you might feel like, dang, this is a lot to give up for Damian Lillard. But you have to remember, we're talking about Damian Lillard. He's a top 5 point guard in the league, and he has been for quite some time. If you pair him up next to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I don't see how you're not the favorites.
Don't forget Porzingis.
And Kristaps Porzingis. It's going to be a lot of money front-loaded on the books. Everyone else would have to be on veteran minimum contracts and two-way deals. But, I mean, this I think guarantees you. If this were to happen, remember, guys, these are just proposals that are not being reported. But if this were to happen, there is no way Boston is not the favorite. And Portland knows they're not going anywhere. You're getting the haul you asked for. You have a couple of pieces like Robert Williams III. As long as you can keep him healthy, he would be a great center to pair next to Scoot Henderson. So I think this really would be great for them because I think once they trade Damian Lillard, it's going to kind of clear the log jam. And then I think we're going to see Anthony Simons go. I think Yusuf Nurkic is going to be gone. Maybe even they try to get rid of Jeremy Grant, though I don't know how you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, he's pretty expensive. But you got to think, too, I mean, even though these are hypothetical trade scenarios, I do think Damian Lillard would be a great destination or landing spot for the Celtics. But I mean, he's already mentioned that he only wants to play for Miami. And if he gets traded to any other team, he's not going to report to training camp. He's not willing to
Yeah.
play. Seems a little fishy.
I just don't buy that at all. That is not who he is as a person. That is not the character that he has shown over the past 11 years in the league. I think that this is a situation where he obviously wants to get what he wants. I think he's trying to create leverage. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, Kyrie Irving said he was going to meet with the Suns, right? I mean, like, players will do this so they can try to get what they want to contract-wise or destination-wise. I mean, but if he got traded to Boston, there's no way Damian Lillard isn't reporting. I don't believe that for a second. There's no way. He's not that guy.
I don't know. I mean, like, I have never thought he was that guy until he became that guy. And you might be right. I mean, maybe his agent is throwing in some stuff to add some leverage for him to go to Miami, but that's weird that stuff's being but it's weird that it's being thrown around. And I know we kind of alluded to this last podcast, but it definitely seems like Damian Lillard is the guy talking to his agent, telling him what he wants. And so he's not just making up stuff out of thin air. At least the agent's not. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, this is definitely what Damian Lillard wants. But the realism of that situation is if he goes to Boston, he knows he is a smart basketball player. He has a high IQ off the court too. He knows that his chances in Boston are going to be a lock next to that starting lineup. That would just be box office. I don't see how any team in the East even comes close to scratching that kind of talent level. They'd be incredible.
Well, Doc, let me ask you something.
All right.
With this trade scenario, what grade are you giving it for both teams?
This is definitely an A for the Celtics. And with all the pieces you're getting in this trade, I think it's an A for the Trailblazers too. Look, Peyton Pritchard, he's young, he can shoot, he wants a bigger role. I think Portland would be perfect for him. Robert Williams III, when he stays healthy, is fantastic. Malcolm Brogdon, even though he is hurt right now, and Malcolm, we hope you get better, man. Whatever's going on, we wish you a speedy recovery. But Malcolm is a good veteran presence on your team. He can help these young guys kind of grow and develop. And that is the first round, that's the draft capital you're looking for. So I think both teams, in my opinion, both teams would get an A if they were able to make this work.
I think I'm giving Portland an A too, which might have a few people being skeptical a little bit, but I think the fact that Portland is not really getting too many trade offers from other locations, and just Damian saying that he only wants to play with the Heat, who don't really have the best package, to give to him. I would say that this is probably the best scenario they could really have. But,
totally agree.
There are some other fun ones, Doc, and another one that you and me wanted to talk about was the Timberwolves trade scenario that Bleacher Report had. Now, do you want to dive into this one?
Absolutely. So this trade is going to be between the Houston Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Timberwolves will be acquiring Amen Thompson, Kevin Porter Jr., Jashawn Tate, 2024 first-round pick from Brooklyn, 2026 first-round pick from Brooklyn, and from the Houston Rockets are going to get Karl Anthony Towns. So I don't mind this one. I kind of like this one. And it makes sense from a couple different perspectives. So first of all, I don't know what the Timberwolves' plans are. You really have to see next season if a healthy Cat and a healthy Gobert are going to be able to work together. So we'll kind of see how that pans out. But the Rockets front office have openly stated, like, hey, we're not trying to develop any more young talent. We want to make a push for the playoffs now. They've shown that by hiring Ime Udoka, who's been to the finals and understands what it takes to be successful in playoff matches. They went and they got Fred VanVleet, and Dylan Brooks. And even though I'm not really fans of those pickups, still they're adding veterans. So even though you're giving up Amen Thompson and some draft capital, you're getting Karl Anthony Towns. You're keeping Jalen Green. You get to have Jabari Smith Jr. You have Cam Whitmore, who was the Summer League MVP, mind you. And you have Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. That is a playoff team. 100%. That is a playoff team. I think they'll have to work out some chemistry, but that's a playoff team for sure.
Here's the thing. I think that, both teams could potentially be happy about this. I think people are forgetting how good Karl Anthony Towns actually is. I mean, the guy really can light it up on offense and defense. He's a 3-point threat. He's just a big body who can really score. I mean, there have been some stints where you could say, wow, this guy actually is a legitimate star, and legitimate stints where he could be a superstar. The only issue I have with Cat, and this is something that Houston fans would have to really think about too, is why do they want to give up Cat? And I think we've seen in, previous conversations that we've had, previous things that have gone on, is that he has some issues. He has issues in off the court, on the court. Maybe he doesn't have the best mentality. We've talked a little bit about this before, but Jimmy Butler talked about it when Jimmy Butler was on the Timberwolves, that Cat just doesn't have the best mentality. Jimmy Butler ends up getting moved to a different spot.
Nice way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it multiple times. He's had altercations. I mean, altercations is an extreme term, but he's had, loose altercations, feuds with Anthony Edwards, who is their future star, their core guy. Not Damian Lillard, but Mike Conley, after they lost and weren't able to make the play-in, he came out and said, about Cat, essentially that, hey, we got to stop playing video games. We got to take this seriously. We have to try and win. Cat's there off the side of this news conference. It's a post-game conference. He says, what was that, Mike? And so you can tell there's a bit of weird stuff going on there. Maybe he just doesn't have his heart in it. He just doesn't have that competitive nature. But when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in terms of competitive nature, he lacks the dog in him to kind of dig deep and be a competitor and honestly be a number one option. I think that was the biggest problem for Cat. I don't think Cat, and it's true, Cat's never been able to do much with his team or put a team on his back as a number one option. But if he goes to Houston, fresh start, and you don't have to be a number one option. So, and I think that you have a great ball facilitator with Fred VanVleet. You have another big in Jabari Smith who can help you stretch the floor. You keep Jalen Green. You got Dylan Brooks locking down the perimeter. Ooh, that's sweet. And a new set of scenery could be good for Cat. And obviously the Timberwolves, they get to recoup some of what they lost in the Gobert trade. And I think those moves kind of help them be a lot more competitive, honestly. But we'll see. I could eat my words here when next season rolls around. Maybe Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns find the chemistry to create the ultimate pick and roll. I don't know how that's going to look. But, Amen Thompson. Ooh. Can you imagine him next to Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert?
I've just been, kind of tooting Cat's horn a little bit, but I really don't think they'd be a playoff team even with acquiring Cat. I think if you're the Rockets. Yes. Are you kidding me?
How are you not a playoff team?
VanVleet coming in. Did they make the playoffs with the Raptors this past season? No, and he was one of the primary guys with Siakam. You would expect them to make the playoffs with OG Anunoby too, but they didn't. They just didn't look that solid. I don't think that, I think we can talk a little bit about this later on, but I don't think that VanVleet or Brooks were worth the package they got. And I know that you could argue, okay, they had to give money, but they were not worth that amount. It seems like a bad management of money on the Rockets side. I really like Amin Thompson. I know that I've been a little bit of an Amin Thompson hater just from his lack of shooting.
I wouldn't say that. It's fair to be critical.
The one game that we got to see him, despite his injury, he looked lethal. He really looked like what people were saying, that he had the quickest first step they had ever seen, and that he looked like a 6'7" John Morant. I really think that guy could turn into that in the next couple years, and I just would not want to pass on him for Karl Anthony Towns, who is really great, is a star, but I just don't think he has the competitive nature to win.
This team absolutely is a playoff team, man. Jalen Green is electric. Right now, that guy is the king of Houston. It's true, man. Jalen Green, he's great, dude.
Show me what they've done last season. Did they do anything last season?
For so long. That's not on him, though. He's still putting up his numbers. He's still trying. Jabari Smith Jr.
Empty stats.
Listen up, though. Jabari Smith Jr. is going to make a massive leap this year. Massive. To be able to come out in Summer League and dominate like that, he has a chip on his shoulder. His best game was against James Wiseman, and he smoked him. He made him look bad in Summer League, man. He dropped 38 on him.
Yeah, I think Wiseman's
Smith Jr. is moving forward. Cam Whitmore, you have a good young athletic team. You have Karl Anthony Towns, Fred VanVleet. That is a playoff team.
All right. Well, let's move on here, Doc.
Too? Come on, man.
Let's move on here.
All right, let's do it.
What are you grading this trade for both teams?
I'm going to give a B+ to the Rockets, because they got to give up a lot. And I would give an A- to the Timberwolves, because I agree with you. I think if you can somehow finagle Amin Thompson in this deal, he's going to be perfect next to Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. That's crazy. I love that. I love that core right there.
It'd be fun to watch for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Doc, do you wanna talk about the Knicks? This one looks like a fun one.
As our listeners know too, we love our New York Knicks here. We absolutely do. So let's check this one out. The New York Knicks in this trade are going to get OG Anunoby, not bad. The Toronto Raptors receive Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, the Dallas 2024 first-round pick, top 10 protection, Detroit's 2024 second-round pick, New York's 2025 first-round pick, top 1 protected. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think I'm giving up Quentin Grimes, man. No way.
Well, we are going to disagree on this one.
I'm serious, man. I think that the New York Knicks did fantastic last year. Not only did they make the playoffs, they made it to the second round. They bumped off the higher seeded Cavs. I mean, I think everyone thought the Cavs were going to steamroll them, and they put up a hell of a fight against the Heat. I think that they should stand pat where they're at. I think Quentin Grimes is a necessary piece for their system. I would give up Evan Fournier, but I'm not really worried about the Knicks defensively. So, and OG is a great perimeter defender, but the Knicks they're just a box of dogs, man. All those guys are gritty. They'll outmuscle you. I just don't see why the Knicks would do this.
I could easily see why the Knicks would do this. I think you're adding another guy who's a bit of a stud. And although I think the Raptors have come out and said they're not willing to trade Anunoby at this time, he's still a young guy. I think he's 25, 26. He was able to average around 17 this past season in one of his best seasons to date. I think that he has a lot of promise and would be a really great addition with any team. He's the prototypical guy who can defend the perimeter, shoot the three, come in and, be a great on the ball guy too. And I just think that if you're the Knicks, you're looking to add maybe some final touches to a team who made it to the second round. Quentin Grimes is still young. I think he can show a bit of promise, but if you're able to get somebody like this, it's definitely worth it. What do you think about that, Doc? What would you grade this for both teams?
I mean, if I'm the Knicks, I'm not doing this straight up. I'm right now married to Jalen Brunson. I like Grimes. I like RJ Barrett. I like Julius Randle. We're all in on him now because Obi Toppin is gone. And I like Mitchell Robinson. I like this, and I like Josh Hart. We're good. The Knicks are good. So, I mean, if this went down, it would be an absolute A for Toronto. But this would be an F for the Knicks. There's no way the Knicks would do this.
Doc, so let me ask you this then. Are the Knicks going to be in the finals next season?
Probably not.
So why aren't they looking to improve their roster right now?
OG Anunoby isn't taking you to the finals next year, man.
He is a legitimate piece that could be with Jalen Brunson and with their other core pieces too. I mean, Quentin Grimes was getting time, but he's too young. I think if you were really wanting to win, you need another solid piece, and he is definitely a solid piece.
He is a solid piece. I agree with that, but he's not the piece the Knicks need. Like, I just wouldn't, like, that guy's not getting you to the finals. He just isn't.
I mean, like, of course, if you get like some superstar or some star like a Donovan Mitchell, even if you get like a Kuzma who's, averaged 20 points plus like that, like, it would be nice to get a really, really nice guy like that. But Anunoby is like near, that level. He's a very high producer. I think we're not giving him enough credit. I think Knicks would love this. You guys will have to tell us in the comments below what you guys think about this.
Knicks fans, let us know, because Doc J says there's no way. Let's stand pat. I think we can make it.
And for our final trade scenario that we wanted to look at through Bleacher Report, and although there were a lot of fun ones, we are Utah Jazz fans. We wanted to take a look at this one. And this one is saying a trade scenario would be Utah Jazz acquire Anthony Simons from the Portland Trailblazers for Colin Sexton and a 2024 first-round pick. What do you think of this one, Doc?
Sign me up. Sign me up. It's that simple. I love Colin Sexton, first of all. Let me just say that. But there is a massive logjam for the Utah Jazz at the point guard position, and I love Anthony Simons. I love his game. He's 24 years old. He shows that he can be a producer outside of Damian Lillard. Look, this is what I really like about him. Damian Lillard is a very ball-dominant kind of guard. Obviously, he's a point guard, and he's fantastic. Why wouldn't he be? If you can show major production next to a guy like that at the 2, I think that you have the potential to be a special kind of player. And at 24 years old, he still fits the Jazz's timeline. It opens up a spot at point guard, so now you can actually look at playing Keontae George and starting him if you want to, or having him get real minutes behind Chris Dunn. I like this trade. I think this would be great.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
If the Utah Jazz acquire Anthony Simons, let's say that this went through, there's still a logjam at the shooting guard position. I mean, let's say Anthony Simons is starting. Who's playing the backup? Clarkson? You just signed him to a 3-year deal on $18 million a year?
Yeah.
What about Ochai Agbaji, who's just coming into his second year, who a lot of people are hopeful on? Not too long ago, people were saying Ochai Agbaji should be an untouchable piece. And so are we just going to give up on him?
No, but that's something the Utah Jazz's front office has to figure out. Like, they have a log jam everywhere, even to the point where Taylor Hendricks might have. I mean, Tony Jones came out and said Taylor Hendricks is probably going to have a hard time trying to find minutes because of the log jam on the Utah Jazz's roster, which is a good problem to have. But that's something they would have to figure out. I'm talking about the potential of Anthony Simons, which I think outweighs the potential of Colin Sexton. I think that's perfect. He's a bigger player. They're the same age, but he's not injury prone the same way Colin Sexton is, and he can give you the same kind of production. Only he's a shooting guard, and he knows his role there.
Yeah, I think that this probably ends up favoring the Jazz more than it does the Blazers. I don't think the Blazers would be willing to do something like this, although I do think people underrate Colin Sexton. We forget that, he has been injured, but I'm going to come out and say that the only reason he was really injured towards the end of the season is that the Utah Jazz were trying to tank. I mean, let's be honest here. He was injured, but he played in the All-Star game in the skills challenge. He looked perfectly fine. And then they had to just prolong his injury because they wanted a better pick. They did the same thing with Jordan Clarkson. They did the same thing with Walker Kessler. I mean,
Walker Kessler really got hurt. I saw him get smashed on the court.
All right.
That concussion was ugly.
Maybe. But
ugly.
they did, kind of like a load management scenario with Lauri Markkanen. They did not want to win at the end of the season. And if you remember, post All-Star break, I think, or maybe it was right before the All-Star break, Sexton was playing the starting position at the 1, and he was looking good,
Yeah.
I think there was like a 3 to 4 game stint where he averaged 19 and 6 on pretty efficient shooting.
There was one game, too, that I'm pretty sure was after the All-Star break where he came and played like 15 minutes against the Lakers until they just like benched him. And it was like it was one of the most productive games he's ever had. He scored like 15 points and had 3 assists in 15 minutes off like 50%.
They had to bench him. They were wanting to lose.
They're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, no, Colin Sexton is a great player. I'm not saying he's not. I just think that you have to try to find a way to start clearing up this logjam. Anthony Simons can definitely be a third option next to Lauri Markkanen.
Well, I'm giving this trade scenario probably a B+, maybe a B+ for the Jazz, B- for the Trailblazers.
I got a B for the Jazz, and this is a C- to D for the Trailblazers. This is us just kind of fleecing them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Full Court Press NBA podcast. For the full podcast, click the link below and subscribe for more hoops content.